Hey, what's up everybody? In this video, I'm going to review Mushu from the Mulan series. I'm also going to share some tips and tricks with you guys as well as we go through this video. The drop rates for Mushu is 43.75% for me. Now, I have this pretty high drop rate because I have all the other Tsums unlocked with the exception of the new Tsums from this month. So if you don't have all of the other Tsums unlocked, your drop rates are likely going to be higher. The ability description for Mushu is clears a vertical line of Tsums when you tap the screen. When it comes to this ability, it's really about timing, but I do have a tip that I will share with you guys a little bit later. But first, let's take a look at the stats. In order to activate the ability, you're going to need to clear anywhere between 17 to 27 copies of Mushu off the screen, and this number will depend on which skill level you have him at. The minimum score is 150 with a maximum score of 885. So Mushu is not going to be assumed that you'll be using to get a high score. Whether at the minimum score or the highest score, it's not that great for scoring. However, if you want to get this Tsum to skill level 6, you're only going to need to get a total of 29 copies of him from the premium box or using skill tickets, and this itself is considered on the lower end. However, Mushu is likely not going to be assumed that you want to use your skill tickets on. Now let's take a look at the skill chart. Every single time you level up Mushu, the amount of Tsums that's needed to activate his ability is going to go down by 2. It starts off at 27 at skill level 1, and then by the time you get him to skill level 6, you're only going to need 17 to activate his ability. Now before I go any further, if you guys are enjoying this type of content where I review Tsums, do monthly leaks, go over the selection boxes and pickup capsule, please consider subscribing to this channel. Your subscription really helps me out a lot. I also have a Discord server, so if you're looking for a community of players who also plays this game, or if you need help with the game, consider scanning this QR code on the screen to join my Discord server. I will also have invite links in the video description down below, so check that out if you can't scan this code on the screen. The invite link should take you directly to my Discord server. Alright, so now let's take a look at all 6 of the skill levels, starting with skill level 1, 2, and 3. And again, the difference here is only the amount of Tsums that's needed to activate the ability. The skill range is going to remain the same at all 6 of the skill levels, so it doesn't matter. However, at skill level 6, you should be able to activate a lot more abilities compared to skill level 1 because you're going to need 10 less Tsums to activate Mushu's ability. Now let's talk a little bit about strategy and the tips and tricks when it comes to using Mushu. The first thing you need to know is during the ability time, the entire screen will freeze. And what that means is once you activate the ability or press the ability button, any gaps on the screen will remain, like you see here at skill level 1. So the best thing to do here is before you activate the ability, make sure the center area has a lot of Tsums. What I would recommend is just make sure all of the Tsums fall down from the top to the bottom before you activate the ability. Once you activate the ability, it will freeze the entire screen. Now with Mushu's ability, you will need to press on the screen to activate the ability as well, and there is a trick to this. Once you tap on the screen, Mushu does get shot off from a canyon to cause an avalanche to roll down the center of the screen. Once you tap the screen, the skill range is going to be determined, but this I found was a little tricky at first because it's really hard to get the maximum amount of size possible. This part is going to remain the same between skill level 1 through skill level 6. The size of the vertical clear is going to be the same. It comes down to the timing, and this part doesn't really matter between the 6 of the skill levels. It's gonna remain the same. So one tip here I have for you, or one trick, is utilize a timer on the top left hand corner or the clock as a guide. You want that left hand line to be exactly vertical as the vertical line on the clock. And to better demonstrate this, I'm going to show you a side-by-side comparison of the abilities active at the same time and then show you exactly what I mean by that. So first I'm going to let this animation play through in full speed, and then I'm going to slow it down and walk you through exactly what's happening as well as what I'm thinking about. So once you activate this ability, you will need to press on the screen to stop this expansion. So take a look at the top left hand corner in any of these actually of the timer. You see here at skill level 1, I stopped it right at the vertical line of the clock timer. Same with skill level 2 and 3. Now this doesn't need to be perfect, by the way, as long as you get close to that vertical line where that blue line is. And this blue line is the vertical line at the 12 o'clock for all of the timer. As long as you can get this red line as close to this vertical blue line as possible, then you're going to be able to maximize the chain that you're going to get from the vertical clear. As you see here, for skill level 2, it wasn't perfect on the line, and actually you could even be a little bit further off the line and still be able to get the maximum amount of chain or amount of clear per ability. And after you press on the screen, it's going to trigger an avalanche, which will show you exactly where the vertical line is going to be. And this is going to be the skill range and the amount of zooms that's going to get cleared off the screen. Regardless if you have Mushu at skill level 1 or skill level 6, as long as you tap on the screen relatively close to that vertical blue line that I mentioned earlier, you're going to get into the high or mid 30s. From my experience, I generally get 34 and 35 as long as you set up the screen, and that's exactly what I got here. So that's what you should really aim for, is 34 or 35. As long as you could get that red line on the blue line, then you're going to get into the mid 30s. Moving on to skill level 4, 5, and 6. And again, the only difference here is the number of zooms that's needed to activate the ability. When it comes to skill level 4, you're going to need a total of 21. Skill level 5, you're going to need 19. And skill level 6, you're only going to need 17. The idea here is that you're going to be able to activate a lot more abilities per game when you're playing Mushu. And again, because the timing bar does move relatively quickly, you will need to practice a little bit to try to get the timing right to get that red vertical line aligned with the blue line at the clock. I'm just using this as reference, by the way, so if there's another reference point that you could use on the screen, that's also okay. You technically could also use the pause button as well, but I just find it that vertical blue line is very useful for me when it comes to getting the highest amount of chain possible. Now let me show you a side-by-side comparison of the abilities activated at the same time, and then you can compare it to the lower skill level as well. So this is in full speed. Just like the lower skill level, I will slow it down and show you what's actually happening here. The animation here remains the same between all 6 of the skill level as well, so that doesn't change. And as you can see here, I didn't time it perfectly for skill level 5, but for skill level 4 and 6, I did get pretty close to that blue line. And actually that red line does actually go beyond the blue line. Technically, it could go into where the left hand side of the blue line is. But like I mentioned, as long as your red line is on the right hand side of any of the numbers, you're going to get the maximum amount of chains. So as you can see here, the skill range is going to be identical between all 6 of the skill level. And then as for the chain count, I was able to get 34 for all 3 of these game demonstrations. As long as you set up the screen properly, you're going to get anywhere between 33 to 36. So overall, Mushu is a underperforming Tsum. And given that Mushu is not a limited Tsum, you don't necessarily need to rush out to try to get one copy of Mushu. Mushu will end up in the premium box as well. So when this event ends, you're still going to be able to get Mushu from the premium box. One thing I don't like about Mushu is how long the animation takes to complete. Once you activate the ability, it still needs to hit the mountain and then a vertical avalanche comes down, and that takes a really long time. I generally don't like animations that are too long and not necessarily super effective either. The maximum amount of chain that you could get without any big zooms on the screen is 35, and it's just not that amazing. So with that being said, I wouldn't necessarily recommend Mushu for your collection, but I still want to show you guys the results for all 6 of these gameplays. At skill level 1, I ended up with 1,748 points, which is pretty low for a skill level 1 Tsum, and I only ended up with 851 coins, so really low in terms of coin count and pretty low for score. And if you're trying to use Mushu as a coin earner, you're not going to be able to use the 5-4 and coin boost until skill level 5. And that's a lot of skill tickets and a lot of coins used to try to get him to skill level 5. And that's why I don't think it's really worth it. And even at skill level 6, I was only able to get 3,137 coins with 10 million points. And comparing it to Colorful Mickey and Friends, 3,000 coins, you could probably get that at skill level 2. So that's why Mushu is not going to be a Tsum I would recommend you to get unless you are a collector and trying to complete your collection. So that's my review of Mushu. I hope that you guys found this video helpful or at least entertaining. And if you would like to see more Tsum Tsum content just like this, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching.